All Stars. I was looking at some of your work on Main Idea and I thought, well, let's just do one more video on it so that you can really understand what I'm meaning. A lot of you really got the gist of each section, and so you already kind of know what each part is about, and that's awesome. But then when we're trying to find the main idea and the details, it's a little more specific. So it's not just, a who and a what statement. We really use the heading. Luckily for this text, we have headings to guide our thinking while we're reading. We're looking for details on that. And then once you find the details, you can use those details to write a main idea sentence, a complete sentence. And so I'm going to show you how I do that with one more section. So the last time in this other video, I showed you using the Life is Brutal heading. And this time I'm going to use the school band heading, and I'm going to show you my thinking. So hopefully while you're reading, it will really help. Okay, let's do this. So as you can see, while I'm reading, I have my box ready and I'm ready to put my bullets down. That's going to be next to me while I'm reading because I always am looking for these details. And so as a reminder, I'm sorry that this is going to be shaky. So my heading is school band. So the headings usually tell me what I'm about to read. And so I'm about to read about a ban on school. And so I'm looking for details about why was there a ban on school, who banned school, what happened. And so while I'm reading, and that's what I'm going to be doing. In January 2009, the Taliban ordered all girls' schools to close. That included Malala's school, which her father had owned for more than a decade. It was devastating news. School was one of the most important parts of Malala's life, and a luxury she never took for granted. After all, fewer than half the girls in rural Pakistan had the opportunity to receive any education at all. Despite the Taliban's order, Malala's father decided to keep his school open. Wow, that's really bold. So I already am reading. While I'm reading, I noticed that it's talking about a school ban, and who banned the school? Well, the Taliban ordered all girls' schools to close. So that's a detail that I really need to be thinking about. But despite this order, Malala's father is going to keep it open. That's so really brave. This was incredibly dangerous, especially because the Taliban were gaining popularity in Swat. Some residents saw them as a welcome alternative to Pakistan's government and military, which have been plagued by corruption. And plague means it's just been full of corruption, full of problems. From then on, Malala and her family lived under constant threat. Across the region, hundreds of schools were being bombed. Oh, so not only are they being asked to close, but if you don't close, they're bombing you. Teachers were being murdered. Malala and her classmates stopped wearing their school uniforms and began hiding their books under their clothing. Wow. Staying alive meant going to school had to be top secret. Even with these precautions, many parents felt the risk was too great. Attendance at Malala's school decreased by more than 60%. But what could Malala do? What could one girl do but watch helplessly as her freedoms were taken away? So if you notice, while I was reading, I had the heading in the back of my mind. I was thinking, okay, it's about a school ban. Who bans schools? What is this section mostly about? And so some of the details that I showed you while I was reading was that in the first paragraph, it said the Taliban ordered all girls' schools to close. A ban on schools means you can't go, so that is what the school ban is. So I'm going to write that. The Taliban ordered all girls' schools to close. Okay, and so it doesn't just stop there, right? In the next paragraph, it goes on and it talks about how the schools were bombed and people were killed if they chose to continue to go to school. So that is something that I think is an important detail on the ban. So do you see how I'm writing this like that? Okay, so I'm going to write that now. So it says, across the region, hundreds of schools were being bombed and teachers were being killed. So I'm going to write that. Schools that stayed open. were bombed and teachers were killed. Okay, now another important detail about this school ban that is going to point to the main idea as well is that Malala's father kept the school open. Right? And she continued to go to school during this time. They just had to do it in secret. So Malala's father kept the school open. And they went in secret. So now, using the heading, I found details about that because the heading is telling me what I'm about to read about. So I'm pulling out these important details, and usually I find like one in every couple paragraphs. It just depends. But while I'm reading, I'm thinking, okay, what is this school ban? Who does it involve? Like, I really use that heading to guide my thinking because it's usually easier once you have the details to come up with a main idea sentence. So looking at my details, I have that the Taliban ordered all girls' schools to close, schools that stayed open were bombed and teachers were killed, Malala's father kept his school open. And so looking at that, what is this section mostly about? We can come up with a sentence, right? So the Taliban ordered schools to close because that's what the ban is. And I'm gonna include like with violence because that was a super important part of this. They really use violence to promote that. But Malala's school stayed open. And I ran out of room in my box. You should always box it after. Okay. Oh, stayed open, period. Ooh. All right, so if you see this, now I have my box and I have my bullets. And this is section 3. This is my section 3, so I'm gonna write a number 3 next to it, and that is what the main idea and the details. And you can do it the opposite way. Like if you read the school ban and you already have like a main idea sentence, then you can write that and then find details that point to it. But for me, I read with the lens of that this is the heading, this is what it's mostly about, and I'm finding details that then point me to what the main idea is, right? Because these all point to this being what it's mostly about. I'm not just like making up a random sentence, okay? So that's what you're gonna do. I hope this adds and really helps you. I know it's a shorter video, but it's just because I noticed that some of us were struggling with this, and it helped a few friends like on our reading conferences that you can also join. Make sure you sign up for those so I can really help you like one-on-one or with 2-in-1, but this is just some extra help. You've got this.